Shalom, family. Hope everybody's doing well. It's good to see you. Just going to give it a few minutes for people to come in. Hope you're doing well. The weather here sucks. It's been raining and raining and raining. We're getting remnants of that Hurricane Zeta over the next 2 days. So I was looking at the forecast and it was showing how we're getting rain for the next 2 days in a row. Oh man, that sucks. Okay, let's see here. Get the other one. Yeah. Okay, let's try that one. All right. Just gonna studio. Okay. Okay. Shalom, family. Shalom to everybody in the chat. All right, I see I got 80 people on my main channel, and I have 19 on my second. Okay. Right here. All right. Switch this over. Okay. All right. That's perfect. All right, y'all. We're going to get started in a few minutes. Let me see if I can get this. Should be able to. Yeah. All right. Let's see. see how many people we got now. 249 people. So I think we're ready. Thank you, Art, for the super sticker. Thank you very much. All right, y'all. And don't forget to join me tomorrow. We're going to have a panel and go over some of the most recent current events. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you're here. We're going to have a good time. So that'll be Friday night. You should be able to see the notification already. I did this like over a week ago. So you should see it. It is public. So we're going to have a good time just going over some of the recent stories. And there's a lot of things happening now. And boy, and I don't know if any of you saw the stories coming out of Europe. Europe is doing bad with coronavirus, really bad. Loveline, thank you so much, darling, for the super sticker. Thank you. It is bad over in Europe. In fact, Germany just announced a 4-week shutdown in their country. And France is doing bad. I mean, they are really going down the drain. They're saying this second wave is kicking their behind. Spain is another one that's doing really bad. Most of the countries that were, Germany actually wasn't doing bad in the first round, but this time around, they are getting their behinds handed back to them. And I was seeing that some of the European countries, as far as their daily new cases, are surpassing the United States. And you know how bad it is over here. Thank you, Ezreal. Thank you so much for the super sticker. You already see how bad it is in the US. Now, we got a warning in my state that we're probably going to have another shutdown because, like they said, in the coming weeks, especially when winter hit and people tend to be indoors more than outdoors, it's going to be really bad in the Northeast. In fact, they're saying we'll probably be the epicenter again in the country. But right now, it is the upper Midwest that is the worst part of the country. Yeah, and I did see that a couple of you sent me that Ron Jeremy article where it said that he could get up to 330 years behind bars. Shoot, that's a life sentence. He's never getting out. Boy, I tell you what, Tareen calls them palm color, right? Well, those palm color men got really upset with me when I said Ron Jeremy was the ugliest man in porn. They got real upset with me and proceeded to talk about his genital size, which I don't care about. So look, I don't care what nobody say. When that man was young, he was jacked up looking. And now that he's up in age, he's still jacked up looking. And I'm still going to say he's the ugliest man in porn. Okay. When you walk in the room, people ain't seeing what's in your pants. They're looking at that ugly mug first. And we know he don't clean his apartment. We already got a good look at that. All right. Well, I guess he won't ever have to worry about that anymore. 330 years, you ain't gonna make it back to that apartment. They might as well fumigate that thing and try to get the trash collectors up there and get that garbage out, as he ain't coming back. Thank you, that guy from Texas, for the super sticker. All right, y'all. I got an article that came out. Let me share my screen with you. Let's see here. Share my screen. Okay. Give me a 1 if you can see my screen, please. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, what we're going to do is I have some audio that came out from the Wall Street Journal. Unfortunately, it's not a video at all. If it was a video, I would have tried to get it, but they have the article on audio. So I'm going to play that. So this came out October 28th, 2020. US faces biggest cash crisis since the Great Depression. Boy, this country is in bad shape, y'all. As each day goes by and they do not get the economy back up and running, they're in a lot of trouble. The financial crisis is getting worse. And I was reading probably like a week ago how some of the economic analysts were saying it's definitely going to be a big crash on the money real soon. They said we're probably not that far off from a big financial crash. All right, y'all. Let me turn the volume up. All right, here we go.
U.S. states face biggest cash crisis since the Great Depression. The drop in tax revenue has led to a total shortfall expected in the hundreds of billions of dollars, greater than 2019's K-12 education budget for every state combined, or more than twice the amount spent that year on state roads and other transportation infrastructure. By Heather Gillers and Gunjan Banerjee. October 28, 2020, 2:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Connecticut acted fast. Social distancing, lockdowns, and testing COVID-19 cases in the spring. But when Comptroller Kevin Lembo opened an email from his budget director on April 15, it was clear the state's quick action to contain the pandemic hadn't insulated its finances. We hit the brakes so quickly on the economy that we went through the windshield, his deputy wrote. Connecticut is projecting a total revenue decline of $8.4 billion through the 2024 budget year, more than twice the rainy day fund built up over the past 3 years. All you can do is grip the bar as tight as you can and make the smartest decisions you can in real time, plan for the worst and be surprised at something less than worst, said Mr. Lembo. U.S. states are facing their biggest cash crisis since the Great Depression. Nationwide, the U.S. state budget shortfall from 2020 through 2022 could amount to about $434 billion, according to data from Moody's Analytics, the economic analysis arm of Moody's Corp. The estimates assume no additional fiscal stimulus from Washington, further coronavirus-fueled restrictions on business and travel, and extra costs for Medicaid amid high unemployment. That's greater than the 2019 K-12 education budget for every state combined, or more than twice the amount spent that year on state roads and other transportation infrastructure, according to the National Association of State Budget Officers. Deficits have already prompted tax hikes and cuts to education, corrections, and parks. State workers are being laid off and are taking pay cuts, and the retirement benefits for police, firefighters, teachers, and other government workers are under more pressure. Even after rainy day funds are used, Moody's Analytics projects 46 states coming up short, with Nevada, Louisiana, and Florida having the greatest gaps as a percentage of their 2019 budgets. Louisiana said it didn't expect its shortfall to be as large as Moody's projected. There is no real model for a crisis like this, said New Jersey Treasurer Elizabeth Marmoyle. It's going to be tough for the next couple years. New Jersey is expecting a more than $5 billion revenue decline for the 2021 budget year, a 13% drop from the state's pre-COVID projection. Already one of the most indebted states in the nation, New Jersey authorized a contested plan to borrow up to $10 billion, raise taxes on people earning between $1 million and $5 million, and is making another $1 billion in cuts to help plug the gap. States are dependent on taxes for revenue. Sales and income taxes make up more than 60% of the revenue states collect for general operating funds, according to the Urban Institute. Both types of taxes have been crushed by historic job losses and the steepest decline in consumer spending in 6 decades. Americans have since ramped up spending on everything from home improvements to bicycles with the help of stimulus checks sent to millions, though overall expenditures remain below pre-pandemic levels. States that earn big chunks of their revenue from hard-hit industries are hurting. Americans are commuting and traveling far less, and oil prices have tumbled, hitting energy industries in Texas, Oklahoma, and Alaska. Tourism has dropped in Florida, Nevada, and Hawaii, and casino closures hurt Rhode Island, New York, and Illinois. Hawaii, for example, is expecting fewer than half the visitors it took in last year in 2020, and state officials forecast its general fund revenues won't recover to pre-pandemic levels until its 2025 fiscal year. For the budget years 2020 through 2022, average annual revenues in all 50 states combined are expected to fall short of the 2019 total, Moody's Analytics said. A nationwide decline in combined state revenue has happened after only 2 events in 90 years, following the September 11, 2001 attacks and in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis. Annual state revenue fell following the September 11 attacks and the bursting of the dot-com bubble around that time, but recovered within a year. During the recession that followed the 2008 crisis, state government revenue fell 9% over 2 years, according to Census Bureau data. This time the shortfall could reach 13% over 2 years, according to Moody's Analytics projections. An uptick in COVID-19 cases to new daily records in recent days makes that scenario increasingly likely. The U.S. economy has steadily recovered since the spring, and more than 11 million jobs of the 22 million lost earlier in the year have come back. Still, the unemployment rate recently hovered at 7.9%, and there has been an uptick in permanent layoffs. Economists warn a two-track recovery is emerging, with well-educated and well-off people and some businesses prospering. At the same time, lower-wage workers with fewer credentials, old-line businesses, and regions tied to tourism are mired in a deep decline. State government workforces shrank 5% across the country from February to September to 4.9 million, fewer people than at any point during or after the 2008 recession, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Local government workforces cut 6%, or nearly 1 million people, and local revenue shortfalls are adding pressure to states' budgets. In Michigan, more than 31,000 state workers were furloughed 2 days per pay period for 10 weeks, while others were temporarily laid off. A spokesman said temporary layoffs have ended and none are currently planned, but that they could be reconsidered if economic fallout worsened. Earlier this year, Chris Kolb, budget director for the state, calculated that even if he eliminated 12 state departments, including education, environment, and treasury, and used up every penny in state reserves, Michigan would still be short $1 billion needed to balance his budget. Federal coronavirus aid and rainy day funds ultimately helped him balance the budget and cover COVID-related expenses, and some tax revenues were better than initially forecast. But the state is bracing for a shortfall of up to $2 billion for the next fiscal year, since $4 billion in tax revenue that the state anticipated back in January has disappeared. "We really have uncharted waters in front of us," Mr. Kolb said this month. The waves appear to be getting more choppy. After 2008, some states implemented or added to rainy day funds cash reserves that can be used to fill revenue gaps caused by a potential shock. The funds are important because state laws typically don't allow states to supplement operating revenues with borrowing, in contrast to the federal government, which helps finance its operations with treasury bonds. States, on the other hand, typically issue bonds for specific projects, such as building roads or bridges. At the end of the 2019 budget year, state rainy day funds had accumulated about $50 billion over the previous decade, according to the Pew Charitable Trusts, putting about 2/3 of states in a better position than they were heading into the 2008 crisis. States had a median of more than 4 times the number of days of cash on hand as when they emerged from the recession in 2010. Connecticut's rainy day fund at the end of 2019 ranked 11th out of the 50 states, according to Pew, with about 40 days' worth of cash on hand. The stockpile grew to about 2 months' worth of cash in 2020. Ohio, which like Connecticut had emptied its reserves by 2010, had about a month's worth of cash when COVID hit. Since then, Ohio has cut $300 million from its K-12 education budget for the 2020 budget year and reduced salaries for some state workers. The Willoughby-Eastlake City Schools near Cleveland lost $1.7 million in state funds this year and expects to lose another $1.7 million in 2021. The school district made ends meet by having its curriculum budget and buying fewer textbooks and other learning aids, among other cuts. If the money doesn't arrive eventually, the district will have to reduce course offerings, said Superintendent Steve Thompson. School systems also usually receive local funds through property taxes. This year, the Willoughby Eastlake system has so far received $800,000 less than last year, the district's treasurer said, as out-of-work residents struggle to pay the tax. Schools received federal aid from the pandemic stimulus packages passed by Congress earlier this year. Willoughby Eastlake received $1.3 million that it used for technology, health and cleaning supplies, and additional custodians. The money was quickly spent, the superintendent said. About 30% of the district's roughly 8,000 students qualify for free or reduced price lunch, and many lack computers or internet access at home. The district, which has online classes, has purchased hundreds of computers and hotspots. At this point, we're spending dollars out of our general fund, said Mr. Thompson, who estimated that total technology and health safety costs from the start of the pandemic to the end of the current school year will approach $4 million. Teachers are recording classes so that students and families sharing one computer can watch lessons that they miss because their siblings are using the computer for their own online classes. If they have a question, they're going to have to wait until the next day when it's their turn to have a Chromebook from their brother or sister, Mr. Thompson said. The Ohio Education Association, a teachers' union, said the state school districts could face budget shortfalls for the 2022 and 2023 budget years of between 20% and 25%. New York, projecting a shortfall of $59 billion through 2022, held back scheduled payments for schools and social services and postponed public worker raises. Missouri has held back funding for services for the elderly and other programs. Florida's governor vetoed spending on a range of items including a new state courthouse, trade schools, and appropriations for local projects. A few states are likely to come through the pandemic in comparatively good shape thanks to robust savings, tight financial controls, or local economies that are insulated from the worst impacts of social distancing. Wyoming, though dependent on energy prices, has a very large rainy day fund relative to other states. Minnesota and North Carolina have some of the highest credit ratings in the nation and foster a mix of manufacturing, education, healthcare, and business services, according to Moody's Investors Service, the rating arm of Moody's. Many states are pleading for more aid from Congress, which has so far sent money in its coronavirus relief packages to deal with the health crisis, but not to offset revenue losses. Congress has doled out about $150 billion in COVID-19 response dollars to state and local governments, plus some additional money to cover elevated Medicaid costs. The money sent to local governments has helped pay for needs like personal protective equipment, but it can't be used to replace revenue lost as a result of the shutdown. In recent weeks, White House and Democratic negotiators have been discussing roughly $2 trillion in additional stimulus, but the price tag has encountered resistance in the Republican-controlled Senate amid concerns about rising debt and some of the expected provisions, and a deal is unlikely to come together before the election. In the negotiations, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and White House officials moved closer on many issues, including how much additional aid to provide to state and local governments, but had not yet reached an agreement finalizing an amount. President Trump and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell have said they don't want COVID-19 aid used to address long-standing financial problems. Mr. McConnell suggested in April that states should be allowed to file for bankruptcy to address their pension debt. Mr. Trump asked in a tweet that month, "Why should the people and taxpayers be bailing out poorly run states like Illinois?" Illinois, with the worst finances of any state, has been banking on billions in federal funding. The state has a $230 billion pension liability after years of putting off payments, according to an estimate by Moody's Investors Service, and faces an additional $8 billion backlog of unpaid bills. Since the pandemic, Illinois' total retirement and debt liabilities are on track to make up 45% of the state's gross domestic product by June 2021, up from 35% in 2019, according to Moody's Investors Service. Illinois was one of only 2 borrowers to tap loans offered from the Federal Reserve as part of the aid packages. New York's Metropolitan Transportation Authority was the other. Illinois issued $1.2 billion in notes, but the funds are expensive, with an interest rate about 10 times the level typical in the market. The state has said it could borrow more. A spokeswoman for the state didn't respond to requests for comment. Over the past 6 months, there have been 51 first-time bond payment defaults, according to municipal market analytics data. It's the highest level over that time frame since 2012, when a string of borrowers still reeling from the last recession ran out of money to pay their debts. While none of the recent defaults have involved state credits, some local governments are facing repayment strains. The Airport Authority of Rock Island County, Illinois, for example, disclosed in August that it hasn't been able to collect enough in airline ticket fees to maintain the level of cash it promised bondholders it would set aside. The authority filled in the gap with other funds, such as parking lot revenues, and may consider delaying capital projects, its executive director said. In Connecticut, debt costs have reduced the state's spending flexibility. Before the pandemic, yearly payments on bond debt, pensions, and retiree health obligations absorbed 31% of state-generated revenue, according to Moody's Investors Service, making it one of the most indebted states in the nation. Much of Connecticut's liability stems from state efforts to shoulder the burden of its aging cities and towns. Almost a third of its total debt is local teacher pension and retiree health benefit obligations, Moody's Investors Service said, much of it from the 1990s, when officials skimped on retirement payments. 2 years ago, the state backstopped debt issued by its capital city of Hartford, which was warning it could declare bankruptcy. The state's hospitality and leisure jobs were down by about half at the height of the shutdowns, according to the Boston Fed, and were still down by about a quarter in August, despite a partial recovery. The state's total unemployment rate was 9.5% in August. The flurry of home buying as people fled New York City for Connecticut towns has had limited revenue benefits. The state's tax collections from real estate sales surged to a 10-year high of $47 million in August, according to the State Revenue Services Department, but total collections from April through August remain below where they were the past 2 years. To address the shortfall in this year's budget, Connecticut's governor is recommending the state make about $25 million in cuts and draw on its rainy day fund. The state has avoided reducing state funding to social service providers despite revenue losses, said Melissa McCaw, secretary of the state's Office of Policy and Management. Groups that provide mental health and substance abuse treatment have received federal aid to help with COVID-related health and safety costs, but have asked for additional state help as well. Ms. McCaw said the state will continue to monitor provider needs. Connecticut has historically been one of the top 10 states for drug overdoses, which have increased during the pandemic, spiking higher in the first quarter of 2020 than in any of the previous 8 quarters, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Community Health Resources, which offers mental health and addiction services to 27,000 children and adults, is concerned it won't receive its expected more than $40 million in state funding, 62% of the organization's annual budget, in the next fiscal year, which begins in July. We are working with individuals who, were it not for our services, would be in emergency rooms, said CEO Heather Gates. Write to Heather Gillers at heather.gillers@wsj.com and Gunjan Banerjee at gunjan.banerjee@wsj.com.
Okay, as you can hear, it's bad. It's bad. And, they even made mention to opioids, and opioids is going through the roof. There's a lot of opioid overdoses going on in the country, and they're not talking about it at all. And as you can see, the states are doing poorly. Trump and Mitch McConnell, they're telling the states that are doing bad to file for bankruptcy. So do not be surprised if you start hearing states doing this in 2021. And also don't be surprised if teacher layoffs are coming, because if states are not getting the funding they need, they're going to have to cut a lot of jobs. And that's what you're going to see. A lot of people believe 2021 is going to be better than 2020. No, actually, it's going to be worse. It's going to be worse. And as you can see, there is no money or any type of relief coming out of Washington at all. Trump and Mitch McConnell, because it's really in the Senate now. I know a lot of people will say, well, Nancy Pelosi too, but they sent that stimulus package to the Senate back in May. This is the very end of October. And nothing is moving. Now they don't want to do anything until after the election. And then I read Mitch McConnell said he's going to hold it up if Trump loses. He's going to hold up the stimulus. So people may not see nothing until 2021, which is going to be bad for the average citizen, especially if you have no job, you're on the brink of losing your home or apartment. They don't care. They really don't care. And if you listened in the article, it also said in order for these states to get to pre-COVID levels, it's going to take up to 2025 for them to get back to, all of the ground that they lost. And I'm just telling you, I don't think they will be able to do it. Because if you're talking about multiple shutdowns, which we will see, Europe is announcing their shutdowns. America's going to have to do it again, too, no matter how much these governors want to resist it. Is going to get to the point where people are going to be so sick, they're not going to have a choice but to shut down. So, hey, well, yeah, I did see Mitch is all bruised up. I still say I think he fell. I think he took a pretty hard fall. Who knows? Who knows? He won't say whether he had COVID or not. But to be honest with you, with the amount of people getting it in Washington, I wouldn't doubt that he had it. Just didn't want to tell anybody. Plus it's getting close to election time. And I think he's trying to put on airs like everything is fine, but he doesn't look well. I don't think Mitch McConnell is a well man. I think, he has a lot of health issues that he's not talking about. And he's afraid if he puts out there that he's sick or he took another fall after breaking his collarbone back in 2019, it may be an issue with getting reelected. So he's trying to keep that under wrap. Whatever it is, he don't want it out there. Yeah, he looks really bad. I mean, not that he ever looked good, but after the fall, it's almost like it took something away from him, because, yeah, he practically looks like a walking corpse. Yeah, I know they're trying to make it look like things aren't that bad. Things are really bad in America, y'all. We're not mainstream news, so we don't have to hide what's really going on, but it's bad. Financially, people are beyond struggling. They are, and as long as nothing like a stimulus package or rent moratorium, or they, put a halt on foreclosures, no additional money towards unemployment, there are people that are saying it's all over for them, because if they can't take care of themselves, they don't know what they're going to do. And if we keep going at this rate, also starvation is going to become an issue in America. I mean, look, the food banks everywhere across this country are exploding. They are exploding. And if it gets any worse, you're going to have a starvation problem in America that's even worse than what we're looking at right now. So I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to sit on this stimulus package without the country erupting. Because I'm telling you, when it gets to the point when you're talking millions of people that can't take care of themselves, they're going to take to the streets, and this place is going to get violent. That's what's going to happen. Everybody is not going to be silent. Many of them are going to just explode. And those politicians, they're not going to have a choice but to go into hiding. That's what they're going to have to do. So I sure hope, I know I have quite a few subscribers that are struggling and you're having a rough time making it. So, I mean, everything just looks so bad right now. Wish I could have some encouraging words for you, and I've had people write me and tell me they're behind on their rent and they're scared. And I certainly understand. Yeah, America's gone. Now, one thing I do want you all to remember, Halloween is Saturday, and I could care less about their wicked holidays. Let me just put that out there. But that night is the blue moon, which means it's the second moon, full moon of the month. The first one was on October 1st. Whenever you have a second full moon in the same month, it's called a blue moon. And it happens to be occurring on Halloween. So those of you that like to watch the moon, yes, it will be a full moon, which they call the blue moon. And also keep on the back burner. Thank you, D Knight, for the super chat. And also keep on the back burner November 30th, the blood moon. The blood moon. So just mark that one down on your calendar, because that blood moon is supposed to be visible all over the US. No matter where you are, what state you're in, you should be able to look up and see that blood moon. So it will occur on the 30th, visible to everyone on November 30th. And we know what happens after blood moons. Usually all hell breaks loose after the blood moon. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of references about the blood moon in the Bible. And just you look at it this way. We are in the time of judgment for the Gentiles. So that blood moon is for the Gentiles. Okay. That's for them. We're coming out of our captivity. That blood moon is for them. Yeah, any full, you're right, Rosalind, you're right. Any moon. So the blue moon this weekend, and then the blood moon November 30th. Hopefully it'll be clear where you are, and you'll be able to see both moons. I sure hope so. It is. Definitely, I agree. Stay prayed up. It's going to get worse. These folks think a vaccine and some treatment for COVID, that's going to be enough to just jumpstart the economy and get everybody back out here. The FDA did approve one of the treatments for COVID, but they said it's very lackluster, that they are not expecting it to do much as far as controlling COVID. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, definitely. Yeah, that's why I'm saying it is going to get violent, especially if people start starving. You heard what they said. They said states are getting less in property taxes. And that's because people can't pay it. If you are only making a little over $100 in your unemployment weekly payments, you can't pay no property taxes. So people are skipping those property taxes. Yes, and retrograde. Thank you, Queen True Royal. That's right, retrograde. That's another one that's going to kick their behinds. And and states are already saying they're getting less money in property taxes, because how do you meet property taxes if you're not working? So I anticipate, if they don't do some type of moratorium, you're going to have a lot of people getting evicted in 2021. It's going to be a lot. Yeah, I heard about that asteroid, Darlene X, the one that's supposed to pass Earth. They said it's going to be a close pass. I did hear about that. Well, yeah, Dwayne Williams, that's why they're getting less money in property taxes, because people are in survival mode. They are keeping that money to survive on. And I think their whole system as far as taxing is nothing but a ripoff. You should not have to pay. Once you pay for your property and pay for your land, there should be no property taxes. The property taxes is just nickel and diming you out of even more of your money. Once you pay for your home and pay for the land, that should be it. You should not be taxed multiple times on property that you paid for. I just think that whole thing is nothing but a big ripoff. I really do. Here in New Jersey, you got to pay registration fee to keep your car on the road every year. It's just a big, all that taxing, and the way they got it set up is nothing but a big ripoff. That's all it is. Well, they're trying to keep Black Friday alive. In fact, what they're going to do this year is make a big deal out of things like Cyber Monday and Black Friday online. But unfortunately, you're going to have people still going out there in crowds, even on Black Friday. They're going to have these stores open. Walmart and Target and all that, they're going to still be open. And those people, because they don't want to accept that life has changed on this planet for everybody. They don't want to accept it. They're going to still go out there in droves. And wait until you look out your window and see all the people that got Christmas decorations up. They don't want to let go of all of this stuff that goes on in this society. They're trying to keep it alive. Yeah. And I think if you're going to do a moratorium on mortgages and rent, you should do a moratorium on those property taxes. At least give somebody some breathing room, especially if they're not working. But like I said, I think their whole system is nothing but a big ripoff anyway. Yeah, you know what it is, Art? It's a government scam, insurance, and excessive taxes. Yes, you know what it is. It's usury. What they've been practicing big time usury on us from the beginning. And their whole system is nothing but a system of usury. That's all it is. And it's a bad system. Yeah, yeah, you're the ones leading and you're the ones in charge and you're terrible at it. That's what COVID is showing you. This country is terrible at leading. And now you hear countries all around the world saying they don't want the US leadership. They don't want it. Shoot, if you can't even manage COVID, how can you run your mouth talking about what other countries should do? Thank you, Loveline, for the super sticker. Yeah, they actually, and I did a video about a week ago. Black people in this country actually pay more to live. They charge us more for utilities than they charge white people. They charge us higher, uh, you know, for financing a car. We pay more. We pay more in mortgages. We pay more than everybody. Okay, we do. We pay more than everybody to live. That's a disgrace. I mean, look, you were born and raised in America, and immigrants can come in this country and get more assistance and help to live here than anyone from the Black community. But yes, we pay more to live in America. We certainly do. Thank you, Chima, for the for the super chat. Thank you. Yeah, we pay the most, and they know it's wrong. But it's screw us any kind of way possible. That's what it's all about. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're living with. Thank you, Griff, and for the super sticker. It's very expensive. And depending on what state you're in, because I know it's super expensive in my state. And if you live in an expensive state, you're paying an arm and a leg for that stuff. Well, see, they give us Black God. You know what they do? They give us loans for things like mortgages and cars because, see, if you don't pay for those things, they can easily come and retrieve it. So they don't mind doing that. But if you walk in there and say, look, there's a lot of empty buildings in my community. I want to start my own business, or I want to start a small convenience store in my community. Even if your credit is good, just the fact that you are Black, they won't give you no money. They won't give you a dime. So, this is why so many people are not upset at the shape America's in. Thank you, Randy, for becoming a new channel member. Many people are not upset. Yeah, you're right about that, Thai beauty supply in New Jersey is high as hell. That's why this state lose more people than they gain. There's always people leaving the state and relocating, and very few people moving in. Thank you, Gregory X, for the super sticker. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Art, for the super sticker. Yeah. One thing I can honestly say, y'all, the only thing we can do is the best that we can through this whole thing. If you're staying at home and you're used to being at home, then it's really not that big of a difference. But it is when you maintained a good paying job and now you're down to nothing. And that has happened to probably the majority of the people on unemployment. Thank you, Loveline, for the super sticker. Yeah, you're right about that, ND. Stock up. If you can stock up on certain things, do it. And if it's not in your local supermarket, anything that you're looking for, try shopping online. Like I was telling y'all, I couldn't even find yeast. It was unheard of for me not to find something that simple, but the only way I could get some was online. If you look in the comment section, I always have it pinned in the comment section, Black Cobra. Yeah. Yeah. And I was reading another article. It was talking about all of the bankruptcies going on in the country too. So that's probably going to hit record numbers also in 2021. Yeah. Every now and then I look at some of the pictures in my state of the lines of people at food banks. Man, it is bad. I don't think in my lifetime, I have never seen it that bad as I do today. It's definitely bad. Well, yeah. You know, Look, you're going to always have this issue with the stimulus. And that's the thing. To me, it's counterproductive to keep pushing a stimulus bill that's only good for 2, 3 months and you got to go back to the drawing board. You need to pass something at least for the year. That way, once you have it, that's it. People can at least relax for a year, but they don't want to do it that way. Thank you, Randy, for the super sticker. They don't want to do it that way. To me, it's counterproductive to keep going back to the drawing board and all this squabbling and everything goes to a standstill. This doesn't benefit anybody. Yeah, well, we certainly know, Prince of Judah 79, it's a do nothing Congress. If you didn't know before, you certainly know now. These politicians do not care about any of the tax paying citizens. They treat that money like it's their personal account and not the money of the people. The way they're hanging on to everything, you would think they paid all that money in taxes. That money came from the citizens that were out here working and people that had small businesses and corporations. They act like every dime of it came from them, and it didn't. But it also proves that politicians are not there for the people. They are there for the big corporations and the billionaires in this country. That's what they're there for. They don't work for us. Technically, they should, because it's the people that vote them in. But hey, this is how it is. But they really should be working for the people, but they don't. Not anymore. Yeah, Miss Elbow Jones, that's very true. When I see the pictures of people waiting in line at the food bank, the majority of them are white. You know, they love to put everything on us, but they can't do that so easily with COVID. They can't. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can stock up on. I definitely agree with that. You know what, Wesley? You're right. You said the curses are reversing. It is, but you know what? It started long before now. You know what was the biggest curse I saw fall on them, actually two. One was the drug addiction, because it was mostly impacting them more than anyone else. And the second curse was the low birth rate. That low birth rate, that was definitely a curse. You know, they can't be fruitful and flourish on the earth because they're not reproducing. So even long before COVID, those curses were coming to light when it came down to them. So it didn't just start with COVID, it actually started before then. But I think life just looks so much the same. We were not really seeing it for what it was. And you don't know what damage COVID is doing. Because, you know, I was even looking at an article that was talking about how will COVID affect fertility, because they're finding COVID in the sperm. So how is that going to impact fertility? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the holiday is going to pretty much crash and burn. I mean, look at what happened over in Israel. During their holy holiday, they had to shut down the country because of COVID. So they couldn't even celebrate their holy holiday that they normally would, which was their Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. They couldn't even do it because they were on lockdown in Israel. So what do you think is coming to America? Yeah, you're going to have some that's going to still gather and do what they want, but they're already saying they are anticipating holiday spread of coronavirus. So what they mean is, as each holiday comes, there's going to be a surge in the country after each holiday, because these folks will still be gathering, you know. And a lot of the hoarding that's going on now is for the holiday. They want all of their holiday food, you know, for Thanksgiving. They want their holiday food for Christmas. So they're stockpiling now for those things. Mhm. So we shall see. A surge after each holiday is what they're saying. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Chima, again for the super chat. I'm going to go ahead and conclude. If you can all be here tomorrow night, we'll be getting started at 7:30, and it's going to be current events, True Royal, LVZ, KD, Tareen. So, and I did invite Santee. So we should have a good time. So I, you know, if you just look for my current event for tomorrow, 7:30, even if you don't get notification, just look for it. All right. Okay, family. Wherever you are, please stay safe and keep those immune systems up in all four corners of the earth. And we're going to get through this thing. Shalom, family.